Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat down on a Sunday afternoon, opened up a budgeting app or spreadsheet, and told yourself, this month is going to be different. I'm finally going to stick to my budget. And then, 2 weeks later, you're staring at your credit card statement wondering where it all went wrong. Yeah, you're not alone. Here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. About 90% of budgets fail. And it's not because you're lazy or bad with money. It's because traditional budgeting feels like a financial diet. You're constantly restricting yourself, tracking every single purchase, feeling guilty about that coffee you grabbed on Tuesday morning. It's exhausting. And just like in most diets, it's completely unsustainable. But here's what's crazy. While you've been obsessing over whether you spent $3 or $5 on that latte, you've missed the bigger picture. The real wealth-building opportunity isn't in restriction, it's in automation. See, traditional budgeting focuses on what you can't spend. The strategy I'm about to share with you focuses on something completely different, making sure you pay yourself first before you even have the chance to spend that money on anything else. And once you set this up, it runs on autopilot. You don't need a complicated spreadsheet to build a $100,000 portfolio. You need a system that works while you sleep, while you're at work, while you're living your life. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to build it. My name is Peter, and I genuinely enjoy talking about personal finance and building wealth. Not the complicated Wall Street version of wealth building, but the practical, boring, actually works for normal people version. So let's dive in. The pay yourself first framework. All right, so what does pay yourself first actually mean? It's simple. The moment your paycheck hits your account, before you pay rent, before you buy groceries, before you do anything else, you automatically move a portion of that money into your savings and investments. You treat building wealth like your most important bill, because it is. Now I know what you're thinking. Peter, I have actual bills to pay. I can't just ignore those. And you're absolutely right. That's where the 50-30-20 rule comes in. Here's how it works. 50% of your after-tax income goes toward your needs. That's rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, transportation, the non-negotiable stuff you need to survive and function. 30% goes toward your wants. Dining out, subscriptions, hobbies, that new pair of sneakers you've been eyeing. And here's the magic. 20% goes directly toward savings and investments. That 20%, that's you paying yourself first. Now here's where most people mess this up. They save whatever's left at the end of the month. And guess what's left at the end of the month? Usually nothing. Or maybe $23 if you're lucky. Instead, you need to flip the script. The moment that paycheck arrives, that 20% disappears into your wealth building accounts automatically. You set it up once, and then it just happens. Every single month. No willpower required. Let me tell you where that first paycheck to yourself should go. A high-yield savings account. Not your regular checking account where it's sitting there earning basically nothing. I'm talking about a high-yield savings account that's actually paying you real interest. We're talking somewhere between 4 and 5% annually as of right now in 2026. This becomes your emergency fund, your safety net, your I just lost my job and need to survive for 3 months fund. Financial experts recommend having 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up, and this high-yield account is where you build that baseline. Once you've got that foundation, that's when you can really start accelerating your investments. But here's the psychology shift that changes everything. Stop looking at your budget as a list of things you can't buy. Start looking at your wealth building goal as your first mandatory bill. Just like you wouldn't skip paying your rent, you don't skip paying yourself. It's non-negotiable. It happens automatically. And suddenly, budgeting isn't about restriction anymore. It's about priorities. The power of boring investing. Now let's talk about where your money goes after you've built that emergency fund. And I'm going to tell you something that might disappoint you. The secret to building an $80,000 or even $100,000 portfolio isn't sexy. It's not about finding the next Tesla or buying crypto at the perfect moment. It's about being boring. Deliberately, strategically boring. I'm talking about index funds. Look, I get it. Index funds aren't exciting. You're not going to brag about them at parties. You're not going to feel like a genius stock picker. But you know what you will feel? Rich. Eventually. Because while everyone else is chasing hot stocks and losing money trying to time the market, you're going to be quietly, consistently building wealth. Here's why simplicity beats complexity almost every single time. The average investor who tries to pick individual stocks underperforms the market by about 2 to 3% annually. Know why? Because they're making emotional decisions. They're buying high when everyone's excited and selling low when everyone's panicking. They're paying trading fees. They're wasting time researching companies. Meanwhile, the boring index fund investor? They're just buying the entire market and holding on. And historically, the S&P 500 has returned about 10% annually over the long term. Some years more, some years less, but over decades, that average holds up. So let me introduce you to the 3 ETF strategy. You don't need dozens of different stocks or funds. You don't need to build some elaborate portfolio that requires a finance degree to understand. You need 3 core ETFs, and you're basically set. Number 1, VOO. That's the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. This fund tracks the 500 largest companies in America. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all the heavy hitters. When you buy VOO, you own a tiny piece of all of them. It's diversified, it's low cost, the expense ratio is only about 0.03%, and it's proven. This is your foundation. Number 2, you might want some international exposure, something like VXUS, which gives you access to international stocks outside the United States. This adds another layer of diversification. Number 3, maybe you add a bond ETF like BND for stability, especially as you get older and want to reduce risk. But honestly, if you just bought VOO every single month and did nothing else, you'd be ahead of most Americans. I'm serious. Consistency beats complexity. Here's what this looks like in practice. Let's say you're investing $500 a month. On the first of every month, automatically, that money gets pulled from your checking account and purchases shares of VEO. You don't check the news. You don't worry about whether the market's up or down that day. You don't overthink it. You just buy. Market crashes, you buy. Markets at all-time highs, you buy. This is called dollar cost averaging, and it removes emotion from the equation. Some months you'll buy when prices are high and get fewer shares. Other months you'll buy when prices are low and get more shares. Over time, it averages out, and you keep building your position. The power of boring investing is that it works. It's not flashy. It won't make for great dinner conversation, but in 10 years, when your friends are still trying to find the next big thing, you'll be sitting on a 6-figure portfolio wondering why everyone makes this so complicated. Scaling. From $1,000 to $100,000 in 5 years. All right, let's get tactical. How do you actually go from a small initial investment to a $100,000 milestone? Is it even possible on a normal income in just 5 years? The short answer, yes, but it requires consistency, discipline, and understanding how the math works. Let's start with the roadmap. Say you're beginning with $1,000. You open a brokerage account, maybe with Fidelity or Vanguard or Charles Schwab, and you invest that $1,000 into VOO. That's your starting point. Now, to hit $100,000 in 5 years, you need to be investing roughly $1,500 per month, assuming an average annual return of about 8%. I know that sounds like a lot, and for some people that might not be realistic right away, but here's the thing, you can work up to it. Maybe you start with $500 a month, then you get a raise and bump it to $700, then you cut some unnecessary subscriptions and find another $100, you sell that car that's bleeding you dry with payments and insurance, and suddenly you freed up another $300 a month. Little by little, you scale up your monthly contributions. And this is where compound interest becomes your best friend. In the beginning, your returns are small because your account balance is small. But as your portfolio grows, those returns start to snowball. In year 1, an 8% return on $10,000 is $800. But in year 4, an 8% return on $60,000 is $4,800. You're making money on your contributions and on all the growth from previous years. That's the magic of index funds and time. You're not trying to get rich quick. You're getting rich slowly, but slowly, when compounded over years, becomes surprisingly fast. Now here's something important. Your strategy should evolve as you age. If you're in your 20s or 30s, you can be aggressive. Put that full 20% into stocks. You have time to weather market downturns. But as you hit your 40s, and especially your 50s, you might want to start thinking about things like Roth conversions for tax efficiency. You might shift some of your portfolio into bonds for stability. The point is, the pay yourself first framework stays the same, but the specific tactics adapt to your stage of life. The bottom line. So let me bring this all together. You don't need a restrictive budget that makes you feel guilty every time you buy something. You need a system that prioritizes your future self. Pay yourself first. Automate that 20% into a high-yield savings account until you've got your emergency fund, then redirect it into boring, reliable index funds like VOO. Stop trying to beat the market. Stop overthinking. Just buy consistently every single month and let compound interest do the heavy lifting. This isn't about deprivation, it's about intentionality. It's about deciding that building wealth is a priority and then making it automatic so you don't have to think about it. 90% of budgets fail because they rely on willpower. But systems? Systems don't require willpower. They just require setup. And once it's set up, it runs itself. So forget budgeting the old way. Build a system. Pay yourself first. Invest in boring funds. And in 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to look back and realize you built something real. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, let me know in the comments. And remember, wealth isn't built by being perfect, it's built by being consistent. See you in the next one.